For USDFootball.com, I'm Jack Smith, joined alongside Chris Trevino for instant analysis from USC's Tuesday evening spring practice number 7. Chris, it was actually a nice day out. I know we start with the weather just about every day, but it was a beautiful day for some USC football. What were your general thoughts from this practice?
I wrote in my ghost notes, it was disgustingly beautiful today. It was picturesque, maybe the best day we've had of spring break or spring camp in terms of weather. But yeah, it was a really great day. Team was fired up, with the beautiful weather in the backdrop. Got to see some of the offense working, defense working. They were working on some pass rush drills, defensive line, getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands. Defense was working on some hip movements, getting around, getting skinny, as they call it, and when they slip past those offensive linemen. So a lot of technical work today for some of the defense I was able to watch.
How were they working on the hip movements?
Just shimmying in their hands behind their back. So getting skinny, Jack, getting skinny.
Yes, I also know that you saw some differences in the depth chart for USC when it came to some of the drills. Do you want to break those down?
Yeah, just a little bit on the pursuit drills, that drill they do at the start of practice for the defensive line, the whole entire defense. They line them up, first unit, second unit, and then third unit. Now, it's not clear if that's actually reflects the first team, but for more or less it is. You got to see Anthony Lucas out there on the first team defensive line with Keon Bars and Dejon Benton, along with Jamil Muhammad at the rush end spot. That's been kind of consistent, but seeing Lucas there bump up to that first team is a nice little boost. And then Damani Jackson also got some work with the first team at cornerback alongside Sierra Wright, who is having a really, really good spring camp.
Yeah, hopefully we get to talk to some of these corners eventually. Thursday is normally a defensive day because Tuesday is the offensive day. It's a day where we talk to a bunch of offensive players as well as Lincoln Riley. So Lincoln talked about a couple of positions, Chris. One he had a lot of praise for, one and not so much. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But let's start with the running back room, which Lincoln Riley was heaping praise on his 5 guys in the backfield. Do you want to break down kind of the biggest notes that he had about the running back room?
Yeah, they're really excited about that running back room. You lose Travis Dye. That is a huge loss for them, but they are deeper than they were last year, getting Marshawn Lloyd out of the portal from South Carolina. They have 2 really strong veterans in Lloyd and Austin Jones coming back for another run. Darren Barlow, he is serviceable. You can put him in there. Irv Brown, just a dynamic. And then the 2 freshmen, Quentin Joyner and Marion Peterson. We'll talk about what Coach Kiel McDonald said about those guys, but they're really excited about that group. They feel like they have 5 guys. Running back is a position at college, you can make the jump really easy from high school to college. It's not like offensive line. It's not like defensive line. You can be a star as a freshman, and they feel really highly about those 2 freshmen they brought in. You see another year of growth from Irv Brown. This running back room is very, very deep and very, very experienced overall.
Yeah, and Lincoln mentioned that the coaching staff feels confident in 5 guys that they have there back in the running back room. And USC saw their depth tested a little bit last year when Travis Dye went down with injury. And I think you can kind of get the sense that after Austin Jones, potentially Irv Brown, they weren't super excited about the depth they had last year. But this year, as you mentioned, they've got all those guys. You could even name it 6 if you're including both the freshmen and all the other 4 guys that we mentioned. So USC seems to be an embarrassment of riches in the running back room right now. And Kiel McDonald, when he was asked, hey, do you plan on going with one guy like you have in the past, or are you going to use a multi-running back approach? He says, we're going to figure that out. And they've got a lot of guys, and he is just saying he wants them to compete throughout the spring. And he also mentioned those freshmen like you mentioned. So what did you take away from what running backs coach Kiel McDonald said to media today?
I think the first thing is what he said about competition. He was asked about Austin Jones, him coming back. They brought in another veteran back, a guy who has starting experience in the SEC. Both guys can't carry the ball at the same time, so one of those guys has to step up. And he was asked what was his message to Austin Jones, knowing that they brought in another starting caliber running back. He just said compete. He said, I feel like sometimes competition is a lost art with the transfer portal, guys always looking over their shoulder. We're just worried about competing. Just come in here, put your head down, do the work, and you'll be rewarded. So that was his kind of message to Austin Jones. Like, don't worry about anyone else coming in. Don't worry about that. Just come in. You know the offense. You know what high level you can play at. We saw that last year in that stretch of games where he was just a grown man out there. He knows how to play football. So just come in, compete, step your game up with these new guys in here, and everything will work itself out. So that was kind of his big message with Austin Jones in the competition aspect. And then with the freshmen, he said they're freshmen. They're going to have some busts. They're going to have mistakes. That's what spring camp is for, especially for an early rollie. Guys that should be in high school right now. But he had a lot of praise for them. He said they are going to be very, very good running backs here at USC. So he was very excited about getting those the Texas two-step, as I like to call him, Quentin Joyner and Marion Peterson. He also said Marion Peterson is a big man, and he is going to be a guy who, as he develops, a good pass blocker just by his sheer size. And he was also asked about pass blocking, because that was an inconsistent issue last year, and Travis Dye was such a good pass blocker. He says he's seen a lot from Darwin Barlow and Marshawn Lloyd and Austin Jones. Those guys are not afraid to put their face mask in your face, so we're seeing some development there. And I would assume that for Marshawn Lloyd, who played running back in the SEC, he better be ready to block a blitzing linebacker or a big defensive lineman.
Yeah, Irv Brown was a hot topic as well today. You had a lot of people talking about him. Lincoln Riley mentioned just the mental toughness it takes to be playing multiple positions like Irv Brown basically does. He's a receiver and a running back all built into one. Kiel McDonald mentioned that he's learning a lot of the new offense. He's looking better in year 2. And Lake McRee even mentioned him when he was asked about different receivers who have played well, and he was mentioned among different wide receivers. So Irv Brown, still the dynamic player that we all expected him to be coming out of Mater Dei last year, and it seems like he's only growing in year 2. What would you take away from what a bunch of different coaches and Lake McRee all had to say about Irv Brown?
I'm not surprised at all. If you know Irv Brown's recruitment, you know that he was such a high caliber athlete prospect that he could have played wide receiver in college and not missed a beat. And the initial plan for Irv coming into USC was to start off in that running back room. It just didn't work out that way. So now I think they're taking the time for him to play slot because they have an abundance of riches in that running back room. They want to be able to get multiple guys touches, and one of those guys that you need to get the ball in his hands is Irv Brown. We saw the plays that he was able to make. We saw the Heisman pros. That is the kind of talent that he has, but they have a lot of competition there. So he is versatile enough to play wide receiver out of that slot. So hey, just another way to get him the ball in his hands, another weapon for this offense, another headache-causing player for a defensive coordinator on the other side of the box. So, just those kind of things. Just the tinkering from Lincoln Riley, like, hey, I have this guy, let's move over here, let's create the mismatch. So just another weapon is coming for USC's offense. And yeah, he's making waves already in spring camp as a receiver.
And you mentioned only one running back can run the ball at a time. If Lincoln Riley wanted, he could have 5 receivers running routes at the same time. So Irv Brown, I think it's a little bit easier. If you throw him in the slot, maybe a better chance at touches this year. But I'm sure that he'll continue to play both. As Lincoln Riley's mentioning him as a running back, other guys mentioning him as a receiver. I think it's what we saw last year, where he's going to play a little bit of both, and USC's going to see where he sticks. But that's enough for the running back room. Let's get into the tight end room, where kind of straight up, Lincoln Riley didn't mince words about the tight end room. He was asked straight up, how do you feel about the tight end depth? And all he kind of did was laugh and say not good at the moment. Now, he noted Jude Wolfe is coming back from injury. USC is still trying to battle some depth issues at the tight end position. He did mention some guys who have been playing well, but overall, what were some of your thoughts about what Lincoln said about the tight end room?
You're right. He's not lying. It is not good. They only have 2 healthy scholarship tight ends in Lake McRee and Carson Tabarachi, who moved over from linebacker, so he's not even like a true tight end now. He's still working his way through that. But yeah, they're very, very low on depth, with the transfer of Malcolm Epps and the retirement of Ethan Ray and the injury to Jude Wolfe. But he says they will be okay. They will get Jude Wolfe back. They will get Cade Eldridge in the summer. And who knows, maybe they'll get another special tight end weapon coming here in the near future. That's a plug. Deuce Robinson, the 5-star tight end, will be committing on Thursday. So we'll see what happens if there's more good news in the future for USC's tight end room. But yeah, he complimented Lake McRee, who's been getting a ton of reps, obviously, as the only real, true guy that played tight end last year. And he's been doing a really good job with those reps. Remember, he missed spring camp last year, so didn't really get that chemistry building within the offense and Caleb Williams. So now they're really kind of getting on the same page. And, he's been having a spring camp that, a lot of people are excited about. We saw that potential as a true freshman. Hopefully we can unlock that. He thinks the tight ends are going to be a bigger part of the offense this year. That's per Lake's word. So they're just trying to build up. They were not the best position group on the field for them last year, just trying to be a bigger impact in 2023. So it all starts in spring camp.
And going back to last year, Lincoln Riley wanted to get a little bit more tight end involved because he's a guy that has produced tight ends in the past. You look at the NFL, and Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews both played for him at Oklahoma, and he has produced some NFL talent at the tight end position, and he's worked with offenses that use tight ends a lot. So I think he wants to be able to use that tight end. Lake McRee, as you can tell by what he's saying, it seems like Lake is sticking out as one of those guys that could potentially see some more run at the position, and it's just a matter of getting a little bit more depth at the position. And Lake did mention that he does think that USC will, or the tight end room at least, will play better and get a little bit more reps, get more pass action as they've been able to work with Caleb Williams a little bit more as well. But are there any more thoughts before you kind of want to wrap this one out? I know we talked with Caleb Williams about a couple things, and I know you had some observations from practice. Just overall, what did you kind of want to wrap up with?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think, just going back to Carson, Lincoln Riley was complimentary of him. He said, it's tough to learn a new position or come over and do that, but he has a really quote unquote cool skill set for the position. Him being a running back in high school, and for that H-back position, it needs a guy who played running back, and so Carson can catch out of the backfield, run the ball, be a blocker, all those things. And as a linebacker, a converted linebacker, he's not afraid of contact. So I think you're going to see a little bit more of those wrinkles with Carson in there. Cade Eldridge kind of fits that athlete mold as well. So excited to see what the offense can evolve with a true kind of H-back player now on that side of the ball for Lincoln Riley. Getting out and getting a Cade Eldridge, switching over Carson. So I think it's going to be an interesting step for the offense. And then, with Caleb, he just said something he said earlier in camp is just consistency. When he's consistent, he makes good plays, so he just has to keep that going. That's some sort of a motto he's keeping for spring camp. And if he's consistent, can throw for more yards, run for more yards, throw for more touchdowns, all those things, that can lead to another superb season. So, and he also was complimentary of some defensive players from practice today, most notably Anthony Lucas. He said he'd make a ridiculous play. I'm not quite sure what the exact play was, but Anthony Lucas, physical specimen, we all know this, but to hear the quarterback in awe of him making a stupendous defensive play today, that's music to USC fans' ears.
Yeah, and Lake McRee mentioned the defense has been playing pretty well in spring ball. You had Michael Jackson III saying that there's been some DBs that have been stepping up. He noted that Damani Jackson, who he sees now is getting healthy with the speed and everything that Damani Jackson brings talent-wise, has been playing pretty well over the spring. So it was kind of a light day here today, but a lot of the offense talking about specifically that running back room, the tight end room, and also they're throwing some compliments towards the defense. Anything else that you want to add on before we wrap it up?
No, that's all I got. I mean, USC fans will not take those compliments for the defense. They will not believe anything until they see it with their own eyes.
Yeah, well, we still got a while to go for that, and I know that you're saying you want to see some baseball games soon. I think a lot of USC fans want to see the USC defense, this USC team, back out on the field, but we got a lot more spring to go, and this is the place to be for coverage of USC spring practice. So make sure you're subscribing here on YouTube. You're checking out the website for Chris's Ghost Notes. All the interviews are going to be linked on this page as well. But for Chris Trevino, I'm Jack Smith. Check out uscfootball.com for more.